Hey guys, Tyler here. Years ago, I made a series of videos on this channel attempting to characterize the politics of various aspects of the Star Trek universe. These included whether the Federation is communist, what kind of democracy it has, how that whole no money thing works in their economy, you get the picture. I recently remade my video on Earth's economy in Star Trek, putting forth further arguments about its pretty overwhelmingly evident post-capitalist nature, and with the help of one of my Discord members, I've also developed a more comprehensive, updated theory about what kind of political structure the Federation itself actually possesses. In this video, I'll revisit the age-old debate of just how socialist/communist/Marxist the Federation may actually be, or whether it retains enough aspects of a liberal democracy to call all of that into question. Let's get started. Real quick, a refresher of what we can say with confidence about how the Federation's economy is depicted on screen. As has been discussed extensively before, citizens within the Federation can acquire basic material needs like food, clothing, housing, and education, as well as many, though not all, kinds of leisure goods and services without the transaction of money. In essence, ordinary consumer goods are so abundant that they're basically free to the point of use via technologies like the replicator, and distribution of these goods is largely based on need or desire rather than as a financial transaction or reward for labor. That's why you hear humans all the time in Star Trek talk about how they don't need to work to survive, but they choose to engage in productive activities for a variety of reasons. These include cultural expectation, similar to the sort of reputation-based economics described in shows like The Orville, as well as the innate human drive to create new challenges for ourselves to overcome. Humans in Star Trek, at least those who live on Earth and within the Federation's jurisdiction, are free to pursue goals and interests purely for self-fulfillment. Examples of personal property, like Joseph Sisko's restaurant, exist not purely to capitalize on the market and extract profit from customers and employees, but as cultural institutions that serve the same needs as a replicator can, but with a more social atmosphere. This even extends upwards to the macro scale, as resources are allocated towards projects like the construction of starships that would be called expensive in our modern parlance. And they are expensive, just not necessarily in terms of dollars, but in terms of the time, effort, and energy to accomplish. The provision of material goods and services according to people's needs, facilitated through technological progress, is a core tenet of Marxist theory. That said, doctrinaire Marxism is not just classless, but stateless as well. Star Trek has gone to great lengths to demonstrate that Earth and other worlds in the Federation do not possess the same capitalist and working classes of the modern day. But they absolutely do have a state, multiple levels in fact, including United Earth as a member world of the United Federation of Planets, both with their own presidents and legislatures. And presumably, there are also still municipal, maybe even regional and national governments on Earth, despite our world being politically unified under United Earth by 2150, purely for administrative purposes. So in that way, United Earth and the Federation more closely fit the definition of a democratic socialist society, possessing an economic system where people no longer need to sell their labor for wages to buy things, but where politicians still make decisions on behalf of their constituents. Despite the existence of replicators allowing for a sort of off-the-grid lifestyle, as we've seen in various episodes and movies, it's still incredibly likely in my mind that the energy required to power these, as well as the usage of other public infrastructure like point-to-point transporters, shuttle rides, and more, is still rationed by the government. An example of such rationing may be credits. Now, those are often presented as being functionally equivalent to currency, and let's be honest, they kind of are. But as I alluded to earlier, the cost of using replicators and similar technologies may have reached the point, by the 24th century in particular, where it's so cheap that it's basically invisible to the average person. Everyone may have an account tied to their name that keeps track of energy allocation using the credit system, but in practice, no one ever reaches any kind of hard limit. Benjamin Sisko speaks of using up his transporter credits when attending Starfleet Academy, but this can easily be explained as an artificial limitation placed on cadets to encourage discipline. While the Federation's technological prowess has seemingly allowed it to achieve a communistic material base, in terms of the political superstructure it's preserved, it at the very least retains the veneer of a liberal democracy. And yet, since there is no longer the same kind of class struggle or commodification that there is in modern liberal capitalism, such ideological labels, liberal, socialist, communist, what have you, no longer really apply. As I concluded in my Star Trek economy video, the Federation's society is at least approaching post-scarcity, another label used by characters in-universe from time to time. And yet, United Earth and the Federation are demonstrated to have a democracy, elections, civil rights, and government institutions like we do in many political entities around the world today. While some leftists would consider these purely ritualistic due to the absence of class struggle, personally, I still find them to be authentic. We see an Enterprise, which admittedly is set in the 22nd century before the Federation and replicators exist, that United Earth still has political factions, some of which have platforms based on the equivalent of social issues, such as Terra Prime's xenophobic stance towards extraterrestrials. And in Discovery, set in the 32nd century, characters discuss the concept of appealing to a base of voters for re-election based on foreign policy accomplishments like making first contact with species 10C. Though, to be fair, Discovery is also set in a far future where the Federation has collapsed and is rebuilding. My point is, whether Star Trek's writers are consciously or unconsciously betraying Gene Roddenberry's original vision of an optimistic utopian future, the Federation evidently is a mix of liberalism, communism, state capitalism, democratic socialism, and a bunch of other labels that I probably haven't even brought up. There's certainly lots of parallels between the Federation and an idealized version of the United States from the perspective of the Founding Fathers, and indeed it can be argued that all of these categorizations are outdated given the elimination of class conflict has in turn erased much of the tension that has defined politics since the Industrial Revolution. It's an entirely new state of being, one facilitated by the existence of advanced technology, yes, but one that was also achieved through the brave actions of its founders to try and forge a better galaxy. The material abundance afforded by the replicator also probably renders the unequal representation of worlds in the Federation Council, that is, one world, one ambassador, one vote, like how countries are represented at the United Nations, a non-issue. So as I've described, calling the Federation communist is a massive oversimplification, if not just outright inaccurate. While philosophical groupings clearly still exist, the absence of overt political parties has led some to assume that the Federation could functionally be a one-party state. The logic goes that they've achieved an organic dictatorship of the proletariat, so to speak, that's so complete that it's made the proletariat disappear entirely. The Federation rules without a nominal communist party because there's no need for it to exert itself against internal challengers and dissenters. It's essentially an invisible political consensus with no further need for debate because the Federation actually has reached the end of history, at least regarding internal matters. And just like how Britain retains legacy institutions like the monarchy and House of Lords, so too would the Federation maintain democracy, even when the real administrative power has arguably shifted to Starfleet and the technocrats. How much you buy this explanation is obviously up to you, and obviously the Federation has external dissenters like the other galactic powers and people who don't subscribe to utopian ideologies. And just like 9/11 ended any illusions that we were at the end of history, incidents like first contact with the Borg and the onset of the Dominion War obviously shaped the Federation's foreign policy and bring up new issues surrounding encroachments on civil liberties. But it's interesting to consider what might have happened on Earth during the period between first contact and the last holdouts joining United Earth by the mid-22nd century. This is another lost era, so to speak, that we haven't seen extensively explored in the franchise. There's also the question of to what extent other member worlds within the Federation practice free market capitalism. Obviously, Ferenginar is an example, though under Rom, the Ferengi have begun a transition into more of a soft social democratic society. It's no coincidence, I think, that his leadership follows in the footsteps of his track record as a union organizer.
Workers of the world, unite! You have nothing to lose but your chains.
and the existence of institutions like banks on Beta Z and Belarus may exist for purposes besides private capital investment within the Federation, but perhaps for the benefit of off-worlders, like how Ferengi businesses appear to operate on Earth during the Picard era. At the end of the day, the Federation is but a figment in the imagination of Star Trek's writers, of which there have been countless over the years, all crafting different contributions towards the collective project that is the Star Trek brand and media franchise. Its utopianism has been tested and questioned countless times. One tragedy of the Federation's situation is that it cannot imagine a version of civilization beyond itself, which is why so many characters are put off by humans' sense of superiority. Plus, just how much Starfleet crosses the line into being the military arm of a soft colonial power is a debate I've delved into in a previous video as well. This quasi-nationalistic attitude undoubtedly contributed to the Federation's stagnation and demise during the centuries leading up to the burn. But what's clear is that no matter how it's labeled, the Federation does come off as a pretty welcoming entity to live under, flaws and all, and is at the very least aspirational from our perspective. In addition to its clear valuing of science, exploration, and equality, that's what makes Star Trek so compelling. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you won't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, you can become a patron at patreon.com/OrangeRiver, link in the description, or become a YouTube member by clicking the join button on my channel page. By becoming a patron or member, you also get access to awesome perks like behind-the-scenes photos and videos, patron and member-only polls, name in the credits, merch discounts, and more. Or you can drop a one-time super thanks or PayPal donation. All are appreciated. Links to my PayPal as well as my social media and merch store are in the description too. Also, just as a reminder, I do have a second channel, OrangeRiver Plus, where I've uploaded the VODs of lots of my gaming streams, with more on the way. And in addition to some other goofy one-offs and extra behind-the-scenes content, I've officially made it my second streaming platform, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. That's all I have for this week. Live long and prosper.